right, Petey Grizz here. I wanted to talk about my, pretty much my pride and joy. I mean, when I first saw this knife and knew that this existed, it's probably on a my homie Hobie Farmer's video about a 30s Huntsman in the 84mm, which at that point I didn't know existed. And as soon as I saw one, I instantly had sack envy. You know, I loved that sack. I wanted to feel that sack. I wanted to touch that sack. So I had to go out there and find that sack. And I found that sack. I actually was very lucky in that it was listed in a lot with a few other junk knives. And they really didn't pay any attention to this. They spread out the tools in like one of the later pictures. And they actually, the last picture showed it next to a ruler, but they did not list it as an 84mm. I ended up getting the whole lot for $60. And as you probably know, these go for, you know, big money when you can find a 4-layer 84mm, especially from the 60s. So, or earlier. But, anyway, it's just a really cool knife. You know, I'm always hunting for another one. You know, I love the 60s style 5-turn corkscrews with the flutes. I just think they look cool. They get that patina in the grooves that make them look dark and gothic or something. You know, I'm a huge fan of the Victoria tang stamp for who knows whatever reason. I think it's just because these are like these to me just resemble the Swiss Army knives that I would see like cool old dudes carrying when I was a kid. You know, probably the first type of knife I saw when my out, you know, with the Boy Scouts and seeing a friend's dad break out a Swiss champ. So, you know, the clip blade, all the usual stuff from before 73. I wish they would bring back the clip blade because it's just nice having that variation. I mean, you know, typically we find the main blade's beat up, the second blade's not very used, but having that finer tip and just you know, something different, even for appearance wise, is nice. The saw on these is actually polished. So I've read that they've ended that somewhere around 67 or 68, about the same time the bale went. After that, they started doing the brushed finish that, you know, looks like grind marks on it almost. And they also, at some point, they took the teeth from angled to straight. I'm not sure when that happened, but, you know, the polishing, actually, I believe the angled teeth happened in the mid-60s too. So I think that puts this, you know, in the earlier part of the decade. Has the Swiss Pat, which is, you know, the patent mark that they used when this can opener was released in 1951. Patents generally are good for 20 years, and they kept marking them this way from 1951 to 1971, when the patent would have expired and this design became available for the, you know, open market. And then the beautiful scissors, which is what I'm all about because it's hard to find on these 84mm knives. I love the single leaf spring, even though they tend to break right here where they start to flatten out. And you'll see them start to flatten out when they're about to go, and you just know any day now that's just going to snap. And the other thing is these old ones have a really tiny hole. You know, if I got a modern tourist here, I think this is like a modern one. That doesn't have scissors, but obviously here is a Swiss champ. And this one has, even though they're 91mm, even on both sizes, you can see that the hole that the actual coil, the spring coil goes into is not much, but quite a bit larger on the newer ones. And when you get replacement springs, they're tough to get in there. You kind of got to squeeze that down with your pliers and make it smaller before you even try to put it in, because it's just not going to fit in there. But anyway, you know, it does not have a 90-degree stop on the can opener, but it does have the sharpened edge in here for cable stripping, which as a former electrician is something I used to do all the time. And I can tell you that this would work okay. It's not ideal. I guess it would work for like cables up to like number 2 or something like that. Like number 6 to number 2 would be ideal range. Thinner ones would be a little wonky. You know, this one works for like 14 gauge wire and above, like extension cords, you know, very fine house wiring. Generally what you're going to encounter 90% of the time. You're not going to be stripping giant utility cables with it or anything. You just use a regular knife for that. It has the aluminum tweezers, which I know some people say they had nickel silver tweezers earlier. I don't know if these actually might be nickel silver. I don't know. I have no idea. They're metal. They're cool. I always look out for that. You know, that's one of the things I see, and I'm like, if I see that, then I'll like zoom in on a knife and see if I'm interested in it, because that sticks out like a sore thumb from all the normal ones, because you see that shine instead of just the dull gray. And the reamer, you know, gotta show the reamer, even though it's always pretty much the same thing. Later on, they did put an angled grind up here, and then at 85, they added the hole. So, you know, that's about it. Not much to it. Definitely, you know, like I said, this sparked my sack envy that I have to grasp with till this day. But, you know, at least I get to hold my own sack, you know, and that's what it's all about. Hold your own sack. Petey Grizz out.